Then we can cut electricity use for lighting by nearly 90%. If the world, as it exists today, were to shift entirely to the most efficient lighting technologies, we could close 705 of the world's 2,300 coal-fired power plants. That's just the lighting sector. Huge potential here, if we decide we want to do that. Renewable energy. One of the reasons we advanced the publication date for Plan B 4.0 was because we were beginning to see thinking and planning with renewable energy on a scale that we had never seen before. The U.S. state of Texas, for the last century, our leading oil-producing state and supplier of oil to the rest of the country. It is now the leading generator of electricity from wind. A lot of oil money has gone into wind farms in Texas. Texas now has 9,000 megawatts of wind generating capacity. There are more than 40,000 megawatts of wind under construction and in various stages of development. When all these wind farms are completed, Texas will have more than 50,000 megawatts of wind generating capacity. Think 50 coal-fired power plants. This is huge. When these wind farms are completed, they will supply more electricity than the 24 million people living in Texas can consume. And Texas will then become, in addition to an exporter of oil, an exporter of electricity from wind. China. China is a latecomer to wind energy, probably a decade behind Denmark and Germany, for example, the early leaders in wind resource development. China's wind-generated electricity has doubled each year for the last 5 years, starting from a very small base. But in addition to that, a Chinese government agency is now coordinating the development of 7 wind mega complexes, far larger than anything the world has seen before. Altogether, these 7 wind complexes will generate more than 130,000 megawatts of electricity. Again, think 130 coal-fired power plants. That's like building another coal-fired power plant every week for the next 2.5 years. Again, we have not seen thinking on this scale before. The third example, Europe. For many years now, I've been hearing a proposal from the Club of Rome to harness the solar energy resources of North Africa to provide electricity from Europe. I remember in 2008, I was at 2 conferences, including one of the Club of Rome conferences, where this proposal was made. But it's been out there for many years. I think it was on July 12th of last year, Munich Reinsurance, announced on behalf of a consortium of companies, which include Deutsche Bank, Siemens, E.ON, a number of other major corporations and investors, the creation of a new entity, the purpose of which, a new organization, the purpose of which was to devise a strategy to harness and integrate the solar resources of North Africa into a European North African grid, along with the wind resources from the Northern Europe and especially from the North Sea. And then to develop a financial plan to do that. The Algerians which have already completed one solar thermal power plant, point out that they have enough solar energy, they have enough harnessable solar energy in their desert to power the world economy. That sounds like a mathematical error, but it's not. This basic point appears in the energy literature when it's noted that the sunlight striking the earth in 1 hour will run the world economy for 1 year. The point is we have an enormous amount of renewable energy resources. This proposal by the Club of Rome, which is called the Desert Tech proposal, could one day develop hundreds of thousands of solar thermal power generating capacity, hundreds of thousands of megawatts of solar thermal generating capacity in North Africa, both to satisfy needs in Africa and also in Europe, and without carbon emissions. And one of the exciting things that make this work is the so-called molten salt technology, where the solar thermal power plants, which are quite large, have a huge storage facility for salt, maybe the size of this room. And they use excess heat during the day to melt the salt, convert it into liquid form. And then at night, as it cools, it gives off the heat that's then used to run the turbines from sundown until, say, midnight to cover the peak demand period during the latter part of the day. Let me mention a fourth major development in the world energy front that has to do with the transition from fossil fuels to renewables, and that is the emergence in the United States of a powerful grassroots campaign opposing the construction of new coal-fired power plants. This campaign, involving a few thousand people, many younger people, mostly younger people, has been extraordinarily successful and has led to a de facto moratorium on the construction of new coal-fired power plants. They have brought this to a standstill. They are now moving into phase 2, which is to close existing coal-fired power plants. And just before I left Washington some days ago, I was compiling a list of coal-fired power plants scheduled to close within the next few years. There are more than 30, maybe almost 40 now. This is out of 600, so it's only a beginning, but it is a beginning. And these coal plants will be replaced by natural gas, by wind farms, in some cases wood chips, and by investments in efficiency. It's amazing, but this has happened entirely independent of the U.S. government. The U.S. government has nothing to do with this. This is local environmental groups challenging utilities in courts with a very successful legal strategy, which was to claim that the utilities, in deciding to build new coal plants, had not done a least cost analysis. They had not looked at the cost of investing in efficiency to achieve the same capacity. They had not looked at the cost of wind farms. And in almost every case, the court ruled in favor of environmentalists, which is why the building of coal-fired power plants has come to a halt in the United States. In the last 2 years, between 2007 and 2009, coal use in the U.S. has dropped by 11%. Now, these are the recession years, so the recession was obviously an important factor in this, but it was not the whole story. While coal use was going down by 11% during this recession, we brought 191 new wind farms online with over 17,000 megawatts of generating capacity. So the energy transition is underway, and much of it is happening independently of government. When I look at how much we have to do and how quickly we have to do it if we're going to move the world onto a path of sustainable development, I sometimes go back and reread the economic history of World War II, particularly for the United States. Beginning with December 7th, 1941,